Suddenly our hero's smile vanished. He wanted something specific, something to eat. Tears welled up in his eyes. Without words he conveyed his need, and in that moment the person with him understood. Quickly he was given milk. As he drank, the conversation shifted to money problems. Even though the prince needed nourishment, there was a shortage of funds. The mansion's budget had been cut. The mistress couldn't do much. It was tough even to care for one child. He remembered hearing the maids talk about saving rations, even suggesting that without it, no one would survive the season. Our hero was baffled. He thought this talk was a joke, but the mistress was serious. She said that even if she died, others would live. Someone suggested something, making him worry. If his mother, a concubine without power or status, couldn't get help, then what would happen to the prince? He couldn't believe it. Being a prince meant he wouldn't die young. But the mistress explained that seeing the king was nearly impossible due to his busy schedule. Our hero understood why his mother often left in a carriage. She wanted an audience with the king, but it seemed she wasn't successful. Even if the king was mean, treating the mother of his child that way was unfair. Why did he act like this? Maybe he was influenced by the noble's mistreatment of her. Our hero wondered what to do. Even if the king wasn't caring before, this was just too much. Tears streamed down our hero's cheeks, and as he cried, the nanny gently placed him into his mother's waiting hands. He was just a kid, but he really wanted to help his mum. The thought of doing something for her tugged at his heart. He sat there pondering, trying to come up with an idea. Winter was here and money was scarce. It wasn't just his needs. The cost of heating during the cold months added to their worries. He wondered, how can I help? What can I do? His young mind was determined to find a way. Then, like a spark in the darkness, an idea flickered. He remembered seeing his mom wearing precious gemstones. If those stones were so valuable, maybe he could find some too. But how? His legs were too short to venture outside. Another thought struck him. What if he could use his unique abilities? With a deep breath, he tapped into his power and felt himself lifting off. He could fly. His heart raced with anticipation. He knew that nobody had enough charcoal, and there was plenty in the fireplace. He had to be quick, his small hands reaching for the coal pile. But then, a new thought crossed his mind. He had to transform the coal into something valuable. Using his powers, he created heat and pressure, just like he had read about. He used up all his mana, pouring his energy into this task. He couldn't let the energy drain away. With each surge of energy, the coal transformed. It was a gamble, but he was determined to make his plan work. His mother's smile and happiness were all he cared about. The stove glowed, the temperature rising, and suddenly a dazzling diamond appeared amidst the flames. He had done it. He was sure it was just that the only thing left for him to do was to find a way to slip it in. He was glad that he had succeeded, so that the morning when Danny came to his room, he noticed it in my bed. She couldn't figure out how he got out of his bed, even though the bed was too high. Had our hero really spent all that night on the cold floor? She took him in her arms and noticed also that he was too dirty. It even seemed to her that it was because the palace had not been cleaned for a long time. They were very lucky that our hero had not frozen, and our hero thought that you needn't worry, for the most important thing is that his mother is all right. The babysitter noticed that our hero was holding something in his mouth. She asked what was in his mouth, for had he swallowed something. However, as soon as our hero opened his mouth, she saw he had a diamond. She did not know where he had found it, for had he really been lying on the floor? She could not understand it, because while you stubbornly she missed it, you could get a decent sum of money. She thought that just because of this they could get away, and for this not easy situation, she hugged our hero, saying that he was a real smart guy. It is most likely after this moment wagons with supplies poured into the palace. They received enough firewood to survive this winter, filled with groceries. In general, that very diamond was just at the most favourable price to cover 5 years of living expenses. But did they do the right thing? Because what if it belonged to someone that it simply could not be, for all the castle had been put up for nearly 100 years before the lady settled? Everyone thought it was a gift from God that was sent from heaven, for their prince mother was very happy, for she believed that it was, in fact, a gift from God. He would surely deliver her from all her worries. He imagined himself as an adult standing in front of his mother, but at that moment he was too young, for he had promised himself that he would open his eyes to everyone. It was thanks to all this diamond that the palace kept the fireplace warm all winter long. The mistress could not even eat most of the food alone, but the nannies told her not to think about anything, because she just had to eat her fill. Everyone was glad to see them. Excitement filled the air as the new mates joined the group. The words that were once let go were now welcomed back, and the most important change was how our hero's mother transformed from sadness to radiance. Her beauty shined, and her smiles were endless. Time passed, and a year from that day, the babysitters picked out a fancy suit for our hero. While their choices were fine, Mama preferred more formal attire. Picking out clothes became a bit of a struggle. Our hero didn't quite fancy any of the options, and he really didn't like changing clothes. After all, what was the point of all this fuss? He wondered if they could just let him be, to have some peace. Maybe he could just lie down and let out his frustration. Bedtime came, and the soothing routines helped him drift into slumber. The idea of being left alone was comforting. Nanny, however, was excited. Today marked the official introduction of the prince to the imperial family. Our hero overheard this news and was taken aback. Was today really that significant? The mistress confirmed it. He needed to be recognized. Despite his imperfections, he was part of the royal bloodline. What a great reason for a birthday celebration. The anticipation grew. Everyone was getting ready for a grand feast in honor of our hero's special day. There was a buzz about His Majesty's appearance too. It seemed impossible for him to ignore the festivities forever. Reassurances began to calm any worries. Sometimes royal parents tried to distance themselves from their newborns, but this was different. Our hero was even more surprised. His birthday was really approaching so quickly. Would there truly be a grand banquet just for him? The mistress was elated. Her son was becoming an official part of the royal family. She knew that this was a significant step, and it filled her heart with joy. She was glad, for the laws of the empire were on her son's side. Errol, on the other hand, was anxious, very anxious, but smiling at the same time. This could not make him not happy, however, whether all the other aristocrats would attend this banquet. He even wished at last to see his father, whom he had not seen since his birth. At the banquet, however, there were an incredible number of aristocrats, as well as people who ran errands. Our hero was incredibly curious how much money had been spent on all this. After all, even in spite of all this, everyone was incredibly dressed up. Is that the way everyone dresses for banquets? It's not that our hero didn't like it all, but he was a little confused by the new faces, because the prince had never seen so many people. His mother began to calm him down because everything was good, because he was the most important there. But the aristocrats had already started to look at him obliquely, but he did not pay attention to them because no one needed them. This, and where was his emperor, who was his father? He just wanted to look into his shameless eyes, for he was the one who never showed his nose after making a child. But it was at this time that he realized he didn't have to worry about it, because he just had to know what he looked like in case there was an inheritance tour. But soon after the banquet began, these people did arrive, the imperial family. Our hero immediately began to pull on his mother's dress, asking her with all his appearance, was it really the acting empress and her children? Yes, with all his appearance, he showed that she was the empress, and her children looked like her. And in the middle stood the eldest, most of all. Why were they all so serious? Because they all passed by his mother as if she didn't exist. She was the empress, but it seemed like she wasn't seen, not by the rest of the royal family. Despite everything that had happened, our hero's mother didn't take offence at the piggish behaviour of the nobles. Instead, she turned to our hero, concern in her eyes, and asked if something was bothering him. She reassured him that things would get better soon. As she smiled at him, he noticed her gaze shift. Following her eyes, he saw his father, radiating an incredible energy, walking by. The chattering nobles and servants hushed immediately. Everyone bowed their heads before his father, and even our hero could sense the power emanating from him instinctively. Was it his father's gaze or his mother's that held that power? He wished he had the ability to read others' thoughts after his rebirth, but alas, he couldn't. It would have been so helpful. As time passed, people gave him presents, and congratulations poured in. It was an honor for everyone to be around him. When the imperial family themselves came to congratulate him, their open attitude toward him and his mother was evident. Amidst all this, our hero couldn't shake off a lingering feeling. He felt the need to confront the arrogance of those who treated him and his mother poorly. He realized that everyone around him was wearing a facade, hiding their true selves beneath. He contemplated whether he should expose their hypocrisy with a shout, but he didn't want to embarrass his mother. Instead, he decided that the best course of action was to maintain his goody-goody image. Hypocrisy seemed to be the norm, unfortunately, and he just wanted to escape it all. Exhaustion gnawed at him, and he longed to doze off in his mother's comforting arms. Just then, he noticed a girl. She appeared to be one of the emperor's concubine's daughters. Even at her young age, she held the title of mistress. However, the banquet eventually concluded. With the danger behind them, our hero and his mother let out a shared sigh of relief. But the story didn't stop there. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.